People often judge others by their job titles, but behind every uniform is a story waiting to be told. It all began on a rainy Thursday evening in New York City. The towering glass building of Collins Enterprises slowly emptied as employees left for the day. Among them was Emily Collins, the young CEO who had taken over her father's multi-million-dollar company after his passing. She was sharp, driven, and known for her no-nonsense approach in the boardroom. But behind the stoic face was a woman who had grown increasingly disillusioned with the corporate world. Something felt off, like she was missing a piece of life she couldn't quite name. Earlier that day, Emily had stayed late after a disappointing investor meeting. As she stepped into the quiet hallway, she saw the janitor mopping near the elevators. She had seen him many times, tall, quiet, always polite, but never once had she spoken more than a curt, "Good evening," to him. Something about his tired eyes that night caught her attention. He was humming softly to himself, and despite clearly being exhausted, there was a gentleness in the way he worked. Curious, and almost without thinking, Emily hung back in the shadows, watching him. He didn't see her. He finished mopping, packed up his cart, and made his way out of the building. For reasons she couldn't explain, Emily followed. The man didn't take the subway or hail a cab. He walked, miles, through cold, puddled streets. At one point, his shoe tore at the side, but he didn't stop. He just kept walking. Emily followed from a distance, her luxury car creeping quietly behind him. They finally arrived at a worn-down apartment complex on the edge of the city. Peeking through the lobby glass, Emily watched as he climbed the stairs. Just as she was about to drive away, she noticed a little boy, maybe 5 or 6, burst through an apartment door on the 3rd floor and run into the janitor's arms. The man dropped his mop bucket and scooped the boy up with a laugh that echoed in the hallway. Emily froze. The man's name was Daniel, and the boy was his son, Leo. From that day, Emily couldn't get the image out of her head. She began to quietly inquire about Daniel through HR, and what she found startled her. Daniel had a master's degree in engineering, had once worked for a major tech firm, and had glowing recommendations. But after losing his wife to cancer and falling into medical debt, he had been forced to give up his career to care for his son. No one would hire a single dad with a large employment gap, and he eventually took the janitorial job to make ends meet. He never complained. He never asked for a handout. He just worked, and loved his son. Something shifted inside Emily that day. The next week, she personally called Daniel into her office. Nervous, he stepped in, confused and unsure why the CEO wanted to see him. "I owe you an apology," she began. "I've walked past you countless times without seeing the full picture. But I see it now." Daniel didn't know what to say. Emily offered him a position in the company's engineering department. Not as charity, but because his qualifications and experience far exceeded many of the people she had hired. He hesitated. "Why now?" he asked. Emily responded, "Because it took me too long to understand that success doesn't always wear a suit." Daniel accepted the job. He worked hard, just as he always had, but this time with the resources and recognition he deserved. In months, he led a team that developed a new system for the company's logistics department, saving millions. His ideas weren't just innovative, they were grounded, practical, and built from the hard lessons life had taught him. Meanwhile, Emily found herself learning just as much. From Daniel, she discovered what real resilience looked like. She began implementing a new policy in the company, one that offered second chances. She started internship programs for single parents, offered child care for employees, and created a fund to help employees through personal crises. But the most beautiful change wasn't on paper. It was in the culture. People began to smile more. They connected. They stopped judging others so quickly. A year later, at the company's annual conference, Emily stood before hundreds of employees. "I want to tell you a story," she said. About a man who mopped our floors but held more strength and wisdom than most executives. About a boy who reminded me what real joy looks like. And about how kindness and courage can change everything, if only we stop long enough to truly see each other. Daniel stood in the back with Leo on his hip. The room rose in a standing ovation, not just for him, but for a new beginning. That night, as Emily watched them leave, she smiled quietly to herself. She hadn't just followed a janitor that rainy night, she had followed hope. And it had led her somewhere far richer than any corner office could ever offer.